Welcome back to another episode of Barbecue and Bottles, folks. Today, we're gonna be doing beef ribs. Now, I've been wanting to do this recipe for a while, and I've really been struggling to find a butcher that'd be able to supply us a full plate of beef ribs. Finally got one that's like a nice, healthy, really nice, healthy size on it here. We've got 4 bones going across the side. So we're really excited to show this one to you today. We're gonna be doing a collab with CJ over at Cooking with CJ. So he's gonna be doing his own take on beef ribs. So go over there, watch his video. I'll put a link in the description below. Let us know in the comments which video you like better. Just a little bit of friendly competition. So for this, all you're gonna need is for a rub, we've done 2 tablespoons of salt, 2 tablespoons of freshly ground black pepper, and 2 tablespoons of garlic powder. And we've just mixed that together. I don't need to show you, that's all pretty straightforward. Now we've got the beef ribs here. Now a little bit different than your pork ribs. So you don't want to take the membrane off of the back of the beef ribs. Otherwise, as these are on the grill for close to 7 to 8 hours, the bones are just gonna fall apart, your ribs will fall apart, and this membrane helps keep it all together. So what we are gonna do is just trim off a little bit of this excess fat here on the surface. It exposes some of that beautiful marbling down below. We're not gonna take this all off. We do want a little bit of it to render down and make the ribs really nice and juicy. But we're just gonna take a little bit of that excess off. So some of this fat here, you'll feel it. It's like that really tough fat that isn't gonna render down. So if you come across a piece like that, you'll just wanna take it off as well. So you'll see we took off about that much fat. We still have a bit on top here. Again, we want that to render down. Make sure the beef ribs stay really nice and moist. Now what we're gonna do, as opposed to using yellow mustard for binder, we thought we'd switch it up. We got these Yellowbird hot sauces in the mail, so we're gonna figure out how these work as binders. I think it's gonna add a really interesting flavor profile. We're using this blue agave sriracha. So I've tasted a little bit of this already. It's pretty interesting flavor profile that I think will be a great little addition here. We're just gonna put a nice thin amount of that over the beef ribs, making sure we get all the sides, even some of the bottom. Perfect, now we're just gonna sprinkle our rub across the top. Make sure you get the bottom of the beef ribs too. Just pat your seasoning in. Good layer on the sides here. All right, now let's head outside and fire up that smoker. So first thing before we fire up the smoker here, we're just gonna make sure we've got enough pellets in the hopper, and we do for this cook. Here we're just gonna be using a hickory blend of pellets. Now let's get this fired up. We're gonna wanna set this to 250, but first, of course, we gotta set it to the smoke setting. Turn this on. Once the smoke starts rolling, we'll get this to 250 and then put the ribs on. So we've had these all seasoned up. The pellet grill's heated up to 250. So now let's just drop this on. Just gonna slide those in the middle of the smoker. Now we're gonna wanna put our temp probe into the thickest part, but make sure you're not gonna be touching any bones with the temp probe. Perfect. Close that up. Now we're just gonna let that sit for 3 hours. We're going for a final internal temp of 203 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's gonna take somewhere likely around 8 hours here. And then after the 3-hour mark, we're just gonna start spritzing. We might wrap. So let's just take a break and we'll come back in 3 hours. So to keep the beef ribs nice and moist while we've got them out there on the smoker, we're just gonna use a little apple cider vinegar. Get about a cup and a half there in a bowl. And we're gonna add in some of that hot sauce as well. So if you've got a spray bottle at home, you can put the spray bottle, or you can put this mixture in a spray bottle. Otherwise, just get one of these little silicone basting brushes, and we can baste the ribs with this. And this is just gonna keep some of that moisture and flavor to prevent the beef ribs from just going dry on us while they're out there on that 8-hour cook. So we're at about the 3.5-hour mark here on the beef ribs, and we're at an internal temp of 145. Again, we're going for about 200, 203 Fahrenheit, but you can start to see that these are drying out on the surface. So what we want to do is just use our little baste here. Alright, so we're going to baste this every 45 minutes. Just make sure it gets that nice moisture content that we're looking for. Depending on how this goes, we might even wrap it. I think the one thing we want to avoid is just having a really tough beef rib meat. And so sometimes wrapping it in foil halfway through the cook just helps braise it and really make it those tender beef ribs that we're looking for. And of course, while we're doing these beef ribs, we figured we've got some extra space here on the smoker. So why don't we do some roasted garlic? We'll put a link down in the description below. Go check that out. Totally worth it. These are just liquid gold when they come off the grill. So we're at 4.5 hours now, and you can see this still is really nice and tender. But I think what we're gonna do here now is just pull this off the grill. We've hit an internal temp of 167. We're gonna take this inside, wrap it, and really start to braise this to make sure the muscle fibers are breaking down and we get those tender, juicy beef ribs that we're looking for. So you can see how nice these are looking. You're really starting to see that bone pull back. Now, what we're gonna do, I've got some aluminum foil here laid out. We're just gonna wrap these. And again, we're really looking for a braise. And so in order to get the braise, what we're gonna need to do is get this angled up here a little bit. And we're gonna come in, pour this liquid down. Wrap. And use heavy duty tin foil so that you don't create any holes and spill this juice everywhere. So that's perfect. Now we're gonna get this back on the grill. That juice is just gonna steam the ribs on the inside, make those muscle fibers super nice and tender, and that's gonna be the kind of beef rib we're looking for. So now we're gonna get these back on the smoker. Now, the tricky part here is we're gonna have to put the temp probe back in. And again, you wanna put it into the meat, but you don't wanna hit the bone. Now remember, this is the side that we had it in earlier. So we're just gonna slot it in there and keep this reading going. We wanna hit it internal temp of 203. Right now we're at 167, so we've got another 2 or 3 hours left in this cook. Okay, it's 8 hours since we put this on. You can see it's dark out. We're gonna test what the temperature is. Okay, we're just gonna hit our probe check. We've got an internal temp of 204, so that's perfect. We're gonna take these off right now. So we've got these inside. This smells absolutely incredible. The smoke, you can really smell the hot sauce and some of those flavors embedded within that. This is gonna be incredible. So what you wanna do now is let this rest for at least an hour. If you've got a cooler, drop this in the cooler, close the lid. It'll just help retain the heat for that hour. We're just gonna leave this out on the kitchen counter wrapped up in foil, but we'll check back in an hour and dig into this guy. So we've had this resting here for an hour. I've hardly been able to stand it. So let's open this up. The smell coming off of this is just incredible. Oh, look at that. Still got the steam coming off of this. Great pullback on the bones. Now let's get some tongs and lift this onto the cutting board. All right, so I've got this crust on the outside. It's a little bit damp. I think that's just from the steam of the liquid because we left it in the original tin foil here. But let's cut into this. Look at that. Just incredibly juicy. You can see a bit of the smoke ring there. You can taste the hot sauce here on the rub. Now let's cut off another one of these bones and see if it passes the taste test. Just look at that. All right, so you can look at this. We've got a nice smoke ring here. Incredibly juicy as you squeeze this. Just look at that, all the rendered marbling coming out. Now let's see if it passes the taste test. Oh my gosh. Oh my. You can really taste the hot sauce. I was actually a bit surprised about that. I was trying to use it just as a binder in replace of French's mustard, which you usually don't taste when you use it as a binder. Here you really get it. Adds a nice kick, to be honest. And these beef ribs, because we wrapped them in foil and we had 2-3 hours with liquid, they're super. These were braised. Like, this meat just pulls off the bone like that. It's still hot. I can hardly pull it, but oh, I'm going in for another bite. Oh, look at that. Look at the smoke ring. Oh my God. So there you have it, folks. If you like this video, give it a like below. Hit that subscribe button. Thanks for tuning in. Do whatever you do in the comments. We love you. Thanks for being part of this community here, and we'll see you on the next video. Cheers.